30-day period is one that has profound significance in our tradition. Yesterday was the 30th day.
I see. I think that there is a real need that the people of Israel will unite and pray together. And of course, we want to see the house of prayer being filled also with all the other nations. Absolutely. I saw a lot of response yesterday. Many people were joining in prayer yesterday.
You know, the tradition of, in time of distress, turning to God in prayer and fasting and, of course, good deeds is not by any means an exclusively Jewish one. Consider the thrust of the 3rd chapter of the book of Jonah. That is the people of Nineveh. The king of Nineveh ordains fasting and praying. They called upon God powerfully, the Bible reads. And they put away all the evil deeds that they had been doing in order to return to God. So that certainly is something that we see as an international tradition.
It's quite powerful to see the power of prayer. And yet it takes humility from our leaders to say we need God's help.
Absolutely. And I think that's the first, perhaps most indispensable prerequisite of being able to get started in this entire process. On that plane, I must share with you that it has been a profound encouragement for me and my wife and many others that when we hear in the news, almost all of our leaders explicitly invoke God's name, and not just occasionally, but relentlessly. Speaking about, with God's help, we will prevail. With God's help, we hope to attain the victory, but to realize that ultimately everything is under God's aegis and God's sovereignty and God's providence.
It is indeed powerful to see how many times our leaders have been using the scriptures and quoting the Psalms, and it is so needed also to unite the people.
Just to stress, it's not just the leaders, maybe far more so than the leaders, the people.
Exactly.
There's been such a, it pains me to put it in these terms, but there's been such a profound religious revival that has taken place in the wake of this unprovoked attack. And this is, of course, in a context in which we appreciate that only a little bit less we encountered terrible divisiveness, also with respect to praying to God, even on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement, and the reaction of coming together, first of all, overcoming the divisions that had sundered our society, but in particular also returning to God, returning to our spiritual roots. This unequivocally has been a profound reawakening, revival that has taken place in Israel.
Well, house divided, kingdom divided will fall. And this is what our enemies were hoping, and they didn't expect that Israel will come back to be one body again, one nation again under God.
They served unwittingly as the means to bring us back together again. And of course that was not their aim. They aimed to exploit these divisions, but obviously, again, while we're certainly not coming to provide any facile explanations of the terrible carnage that we experienced and the inexpressible human suffering that resulted, we see that things are unfolding in a manner that is unequivocally the diametric opposite of what they had in mind.
Right. Again, there were reports then in these recordings that terrorists actually recorded on their GoPro cameras and so on and so forth was Farsi was heard, and the dialects of Arabic that were not local were heard. So there were many people that pointed it out that it was a concerted attack of very many ISIS-like elements that had been smuggled in here, smuggled into Gaza.
Well, I read that in the most current report on the subject, far more current than any newspapers, than the Bible. That is, the battle waged by the nations, as we've discussed, the battle of Gog and Magog in Ezekiel in chapter 38 that explicitly, of course, includes in the Hebrew Paras, that's Persia, that's Iran, but more generally includes a whole motley assortment of nations that have come to do battle with God. And likewise in Zechariah chapter 14, when it is the nations that are coming to do battle against God in Jerusalem. So we know that the wicked unite perversely to do battle against God and his people.
Well, then there is also this scriptures of Isaiah 17 about Damascus being removed as a city and people being removed from that area. And then again, masses of people coming against Israel. In the evening there is trouble, and in the morning they are no more. Yeah. So there are many, many examples, of course, of things that we still haven't seen.
Right, and of course we're not attempting to give God a timetable, so to speak. We are noting that he has given us the words of consolation in the book of books. The consolation comes not because we know the game plan and we know what the end story is going to be on a certain date. We know the end story. We just don't know the date. And more than anything else, we know that he's in control. That is